Hey everyone, and welcome back to another YouTube video. Today we're going to be covering Pokemon 2. Nintendo was nice enough to drop this during their last Nintendo Direct, and I've been really enjoying it so far, and I wanted to share a little bit of my thoughts. So right off the bat, we get this incredible cutscene and some voice acting, so it's already better than Sword and Shield. But the real coolness comes from the new Pokemon. You have this red one, which is really cool. They don't really tell us their name, they're just called red Pokemon, but the cool part is that you can have up to 100 of them at a time. So it's a really huge quality of life update, and I'm here for it. You can really tell that they borrowed some information from Pokemon Legends Arceus with the open world design, and they also added some raid dens where you can jump in with your Pokemon and take on challenges for treasure. Also very cool. In the first raid den, I caught this regional form of Makuhita, which is also kinda cool. I never knew that I needed to see a Gigantamax Caterpie, but I'm really glad we got one. I also came across a Gigantamax Pelipper, and I discovered that in this one, your Pokemon can actually die. It was really sad, but I think it was time Pokemon started to grow up with its user base. This Pokemon also has crusty dogs everywhere, and they're mostly just... crusty dogs? Oh, this is a Mabosstiff video. Welcome back for real, my name is Red Husky, and this is the second video in a series where I take your suggestions for Pokemon you want to use in raids, and I do my best to make it work. Today we have the Pokemon that probably made you cry in the main story, Arven's best friend, Mabosstiff. But before we do that, let me show you something. This is a list of every dog Pokemon in the game. You could have chosen any one of these to be your best friend, and you chose the one that looks like this. Now, maybe you're a more charitable person than me and you're thinking, well, maybe Game Freak just wanted to use one of their new Pokemon and didn't want to showcase one of the older ones in the storyline. And you're right. Maybe Pokemon just wanted to show off their new generation, so that narrows it down to these three. I hate this one too, so let's just rule that one out. So picture this, right? You have two personality traits. One, you like dogs. Two, you're really good at making sandwiches. And don't get me wrong, I can relate because dogs and sandwiches are my two personality traits. But of these two, which one do you think fits both of these criteria? Which one of these two, if you needed a sad storyline about a sick and dying dog, do you think would get a better reaction from people? Focus. Okay, sorry. Alright, you know how this works by now, let's get into the stats. First things first, the ability. Guard Dog and Stakeout both apply to switching, which doesn't happen in raids. So by process of elimination, Intimidate's the way to go. Which is not a bad start actually, Intimidate's always nice to have. It reprocs every time this Pokemon dies, which should have happened during the Arven storyline. Alright. Here are the base stats. He's got an attack stat of 120, which is pretty solid. If you remember, Lucario has an attack of 110 and a special attack of 115, making him pretty versatile, but not this guy. This guy's good at one thing and one thing only, so we're going to build around physical attack. So in building, we're always going to want one thing that buffs our attack or debuffs the enemy. Unfortunately, there's not really that much here. We have Leer, which drops defense by one stage. We have Charm, which lowers attack by one stage. Hone Claws raises attack and accuracy. So of the three, I'd probably do Hone Claws. This move we'll be using is pretty accurate anyway, but it could be nice to have something to cover us if the opponent starts lowering our accuracy stat. Next, I'm taking Taunt. Taunt is a great way to counter opponents that hit you with status effects, because it forces the opponent to use damaging moves only. I usually like to throw that one down first so that it covers me and my team for the majority of the raid. Third would be Crunch for me as a main damaging move. In addition to being 80 base power, it also has a 20% chance of lowering the opponent's defense, and it's a solid physical dark type move. And finally, I would take Facade. It's a base 70 normal type move that doubles if you have a status effect, and you know how them 5 and 6 stars love their status effects, so we'll take this one just for coverage. So you can see whereas I use Lucario as a versatile attacker, I'm basically building Mabosstiff to be ready for any situation. So that's the moveset. It's not great at anything, but neither is Mabosstiff, so it fits. So you probably know the drill from here. We max out his IVs, we give him an Adamant Nature, and we spec out the EVs. I'm going for HP and attack and throwing whatever leftovers I have into defense. We'll be taking in a Shell Bell since Mabosstiff has no other way to heal, and we're ready to go. Remember the rules, it has to be 1 6-star raid or 3 5-stars. So for round 1, I decided to go up against a Ghost Tera Garchomp, which I figured would be a decent matchup because we are type advantaged against a pseudo-legendary. This would be a great first test. And they give me my boy Logan with the Arboliva, which means I get free passive heals, and I now have full faith and confidence that we'll be just fine. So the Intimidate does its thing, and the Garchomp already starts out doing half the damage that it normally would. I start with the Taunt, which gets us set up so that Garchomp can only use damaging moves, thus protecting me and the team from some craziness down the road, and he hits us back with a Slash, which doesn't do very much at all thanks to the Intimidate. Follow that up with a Hone Claws to get our attack up a little bit, and he responds with another attack that does next to nothing. All of that offset by Arboliva's passive heals, and we are still golden. Gonna slow it down a little bit so you can see this. Garchomp tries to get off a Sandstorm here, which would have actually messed with our accuracy stat, but he doesn't do it because of our taunt. But if he did, we would have been ready for it, thanks to Hone Claws buffing our accuracy. So when I say that this Mabosstiff is built to be ready for anything, that's what I mean. We have a contingency for everything. Alright, so back to going fast now, and I want you to look at everyone else's health bar. No one's taking very much damage at all, and even super effective hits are getting healed right back up. That's the Logan effect. I'm going to be making a teammate tier list video soon, and spoilers, Logan's going to be at the top for this reason. Probably could have gone for another Hone Claws here, but I wanted to see how much damage we could get out with just one. And it's a decent little chunk, but it's enough to trigger the shield. And as we mentioned before, that reduces all incoming damage from normal attacks down to a quarter of what it normally does. So we need to Terastallize if we want to keep up our good pace. But we don't have it yet, so we're going to keep crunching until we do. Skipping ahead just a little so you can see the difference when we Terastallize, and there you have it. He looks just like Arven's, except ours is shiny, so it's slightly less crusty. Slightly. But we get off another crunch, and it almost entirely takes out the shield before he removes our buffs and his own debuffs. So now it's just a race against the clock. At this point, I don't even care about rebuffing myself. I just want to take him out before that Clodsire dies. But unfortunately, he does get a kill on all three of our teammates, but that's okay. We still get the win on what I figure would be probably our toughest challenge of the day. So that's 1 in the win column from Mabosstiff. The important takeaway here being that I want you to notice the difference in his attack strength before and after he removed the Intimidate debuff. That is Mabosstiff's big strength here. At least it was until we got to round 2, where we had 2 Intimidators on our team with Charlotte's Staraptor. My first thought was, awesome, now we get to see what it's like to have 2 attack drops. It was a bloodbath. We didn't survive it. The Drifblim burned him, which I thought would help, but then he came back with Facade, and every time he knocked out Mabosstiff or Staraptor, it kept reprocking, and it was at max attack by turn 3. I don't feel like I need to explain that this one was a loss. But that's okay, we just need to get 3 wins before we get 3 losses, and we're good. Problem is, we don't have any more matchups that we're super effective against, so whereas Lucario had it pretty easy, Mabosstiff is going to be dealing with a bunch of neutral matchups. Round 3 is against Electric Tera Raichu, and I'm just going to speed through these. Here we have Kylie's Tauros, which is also an Intimidator, and this time there's no Defiant, which is perfect. As usual, we'll start with Taunt, but Raichu's smart, and it has a move called Nuzzle, which is guaranteed to paralyze while still being a damaging move. But we prepared for this, remember? We brought Facade so that if we were to get status affected, we now have a 140 base power damaging move. So we're going for it, and we'll be using Facade until we can Terastallize, and then we'll hit him with the crunches until that shield goes down. And I'll keep using Crunch after that, because Terastallizing gives you a ×2 stab bonus, which makes Crunch technically better than Facade. But we did cut it a little bit close there, and we probably wouldn't have made it without that coverage. So that's 2 wins and 1 loss now for our old boy, and I'll tell you the truth, it's kind of growing on me a little bit. I don't hate him anymore. I'm kind of rooting for him going into round 4. And right into round 4 we go. This time it's Ice Tera Mismagius, and we have another Intimidator teammate in Austin's Arcanine. We open with Taunt again just to protect the squad. Mismagius is the type of Pokemon that would try and get you with all the status effects, so this is probably extra good here. We follow up with Hone Claws just to get ready for our first attack, and you can pretty much see that we're tanking all the hits. Even without Logan, we're in a pretty good spot here. It hits us with Mystical Fire and sets up Light Screen, both of which are meant to protect it from special attacks. But remember that we're good at one thing and one thing only, physical damage. So we don't care. We go in for the crunch with only 1 Hone Claws, and look at that big chunk of damage. It triggers the shield, and we pretty much just keep crunching until we can Terastallize, and then we just keep crunching. Not shown here, but we did get hit with a taunt as well, so crunching is our only choice anyway. But it works. And we take out the Mismagius, putting us at 3 wins, making Mabosstiff a valid Pokemon for Tera raids. Not gonna lie, I didn't think it would. I thought we were gonna fail in episode 2. But that's the point of these videos. Every Pokemon has the potential to be good at something, and we found it from Mabosstiff. it can come prepared for pretty much anything, except Defiant. Don't bring it into a raid against Defiant. But there you have it. Drop me a comment for which non-meta Pokemon you'd like to see next, and I'll do my best to make it work. Like and subscribe if you haven't already for more content like this. I have been Red Husky, and I thank you for watching. Look everybody, my dog can walk just fine, and it didn't cost me 5 of the most rare herbs in the freaking country to do it. Alright, maybe he is a little bit slow.